So I've got a new project sitting here. So this is a 650 Kawasaki Prairie. A little backstory on this. Had a guy coming in to buy a new four-wheeler with plow and stuff. Started talking to him. He's like, well, I've got this Prairie. I don't know if you'd be interested in it, but it's been sitting for, he told me 8 years. He said he lost the key for it, and then there it sat. Basically, he was like, I just want it out of here and stuff. And I ended up giving him like 250 bucks for it. And this is it. So I've only done a couple little things to it so far, but we're going to see if we can get this thing running and driving again. So like I said, it was missing the ignition key, so I put a new ignition module in there, and I put a battery in it at the moment, and that's all we've done. So it does power up, but we've got nothing on the screen there. It's just completely sun faded and roasted and stuff. So no idea on the mileage or anything like that, but it does crank over. So that's a good start. So underneath here is our air filter. Let's see what that looks like. Hopefully there's still one in there. Oh, that actually looks surprisingly good. I kind of half expected this to be all mouse eaten and stuff. So these screws here just zip out, and then carb, you have access to it underneath there. I've pulled this cover off, so now our airbox, we can zip those screws off down there. This cage will come off, and then there's some little 8mm head screws around there, and this whole airbox will come off. And then we've got access to the carb, and then it's basically just a matter of undoing the hose clamps and then pulling off a couple lines and stuff, and the carb will be free. So here's the carb system on this. So this is actually a dual carb. They're synced together. So to remove this, that's our gas line going in right there. There's a throttle cable down underneath there, actually right there and there. That's our choke cables right there. There's 2 hose clamps, one for each intake. So basically we'll undo those and then pop this thing off. Another unique thing about these carbs is they actually have coolant that runs through them. So there's 2 coolant lines there. So we'll have to pop those off too to remove this carb. We've got the carb sitting off to the side here, but the next issue here would be, so this is the fuel line coming in. This actually has like a little electric low pressure fuel pump down there in the gas tank. I had to prime it a little bit to get gas coming out of it. By that I took air hose here and kind of sealed off with my hand and pressurized the gas tank while turning the key on, and then finally got to pump some out. But you'll notice here, that gas looks horrible. So we're definitely have to siphon all that out and kind of flush some good gas through it. But I think next we're gonna pop this carb apart. So here is the carb. So like I said, that throttle was stuck, which is definitely in this butterfly. Should just be stuck from evaporated gunky gas. So we should be able to soak this and break this thing free again. Yeah, to finally remove this. Like I said, there was coolant lines that go through this carb. This is where the inlet gas line was. There's a couple vent lines and stuff too. But that was pretty much it. And then like the choke cables on these, there was 2 screws, basically 2 barrels that go in there and there for the choke cable. So there's kind of 2 choke cables that came together in a Y. So we've got this part now, so we're gonna pull these bowls off, inspect these jets, clean it up, break this thing free, and go through this thing. On this carb, these butterflies were really stuck in here. I've tried to work some carb cleaner into it, but they are barely moving at all. So we're gonna soak this carb for a while in some carb cleaner. So I've removed the vacuum slides out of it, also pulled the bowls off the bottom. So these jets don't look too bad, honestly. I mean, I'm sure they're plugged, but I expected way more kind of gunk build up down in here. So not horrible. So we're gonna let this carb soak for a while, and hopefully it'll break these butterflies free so that this throttle will actually work. Well, it's the next day. This thing's been soaking overnight, but it's still pretty stuck. So this one side here will move a little bit, but that side is not wanting to move at all. So I'm going to split these 2 carbs. So basically there's just 2 bolts like there and there that hold these 2 carbs together. So we're going to split this apart so I can work just on this carb here. We'll try to break this free and hopefully it will come unstuck. So I've got the carb split. This side is opening and closing nice and smooth. Like I said, this other side is not, so we're going to work on this linkage here and see if we can break it free. I've got my carb all freed up again, so the slide or the butterfly is open nice and smooth. So on this side I ended up having to kind of heat this little pivot part right there. It was just had something really gunked in there and just needed to melt that out, but it moves nice and smooth again. So I'm reassembling everything. These vacuum slides, a really common issue I see is when you're putting this cap on here, sometimes this spring will get kind of put in there and kind of get bent a little bit. So then when you put the cap back on, this slide does not move up and down freely. So that's just something to be aware of as well. So we'll finish putting this back together and then throw back on the engine. It's time to get all this old gas out of here, so I'm siphoning this out right now. There's all the old gross gas coming out. We'll get some fresh gas back in there and put the car back on and see if this thing will fire. I've dumped a little bit more of some fresh gas into here, and right now, so this is the fuel line coming off that normally goes to the carb. If I click the key on, I'm just cycling some gas through here. It originally came out really crappy looking. I'm trying to just filter through this fuel pump and stuff on here. So yeah, right now gas is looking pretty brown and stuff, but it's slowly clearing up. So I'm gonna keep flushing some clean gas through here till we get some normal looking gas coming out of it. Well, I think I'm about ready to put this car back on. The gas on this is finally starting to come out clear. We'll pump a little bit more through there. I ended up kind of pressurizing the gas tank back there and pumping it through and then blowing it out real good, and then actually let it sit overnight again to dry out, because I was getting some watery crap coming out of here as well, and that gas was just brown as can be. But we're looking pretty clear again, and I'm not really seeing any signs of water. I might still throw a bottle of heat in this thing too, just in case, but we're ready to almost fire this thing. Okay, the carb is back on. I've primed it with some gas here. We'll put the choke on and let's crank it over and see what it does. Give it a little prime here. Oh, it runs. We blew a big mouse nest out of the clutch cover there. Woo, it even idles. Had to give it a little prime there and some throttle, but it's running. Boy, there was a good mouse nest that blew out of that thing. Well, let's throw the airbox back on here before we suck up any more crap, and let's see if this thing will drive. Okay, I got my airbox back on. Let's start this thing up and let it run a little bit. Alright, let's watch all this mouse nest blow out of there. Alright, it's idling on its own. I don't know what the deal is, but with clutch covers and airboxes, mice just love making nests in them. Okay, we're going to let this thing run for a little bit. We'll make sure our fan kicks on, and yeah. And then we'll probably try to take it for a drive. While it's running here, I'm just checking the voltage at the battery, make sure the charging system's working. So we're 14.5 volts. That's kind of perfect right there. So that's good. So we're just kind of waiting for this fan to kick on, make sure that's working. I did top it off with some oil and made sure the coolant was full as well. So we'll wait for that to go here, then we'll go for a drive. Well, it started running bad, so I drained some more gas out of here, and there's some more water in there. You can see that separating. It was coming out really nice and clear when I put it back together, but there must have been a pocket of water in there. Once I kind of bounced it around a little bit, sucked it back up. So yeah, we're gonna have to drain that gas back out of this carb and keep filtering some good gas through here till it looks clean again. Well, I got this gas finally filtered through. It's running like it's supposed to again. So and the fan kicked on, I'm gonna address some cosmetics. We're gonna recover this seat real quick. That'll make a big difference on this looks. And I might tackle these plastics too, bring a little color back into them. Well, just like that, the old cover's off, just stapled on the back side. I keep this vinyl on hand. We'll cut a section of this stuff and stretch it back over and staple it, and the seat will look new again. All right, just like that, it's recovered. So we'll just trim off my excess at the bottom, and this thing's done. I've decided to address these plastics a little bit. So you can see they're obviously really faded. I've power washed them off to get the kind of grime and stuff off of them. And a little trick is take a propane torch. I mean, a heat gun would work too, but you can basically glaze these plastics and it will kind of melt that oxidation layer and bring back that color. And it's a permanent change in everything. So I mean, some detail sprays and stuff will kind of bring back color and stuff too, but this is a much more permanent solution. So I think we're gonna glaze these plastics real quick, and so it's not quite so pink. We're gonna bring back the red color of this, because usually pink ATVs don't always sell the best. Here's a quick before, so I haven't touched any of the front plastics there. So let's finish this up. And here's the final product. So I hit it with a little detail spray, give it a little shine. So it's not perfect. There's always little streaks and stuff in it here and there, but it's not completely faded white and pink anymore. Well, let's go take this thing for a drive. So these Kawasaki 650 and 700, even like 750 brute forces, in my opinion, are probably the cheapest power ATV you can buy. Something like this I'll probably sell for less than 2,000 bucks. And these 650s and stuff, they're just so torquey. They're not the fastest, like top speed ATV by any means, but super torquey. Especially like with these, the Prairies, the 650, 700 Prairies, and then like the 650 brute force. They all have the solid rear axles. Fun thing about those is they slide really well too. Especially these with the stock tires on it, or anything grippy. So they will just go sideways whenever you want to. My speedometer's not working on this one, which I looked it up, found some on eBay. They're like 350, 400 bucks for a used one, which is kind of outrageous. So I don't think I'm going to replace that, because I don't think this thing will sell for 500 bucks more if the speedometer's working. Go up this little hill here. We'll check our four-wheel drive button right here. Easiest way to check if these things are in four-wheel drive is put them in reverse, hold the override button, and they'll spin really easy in reverse. So let's flip it to four-wheel drive, let it roll for a second here, and then do it again. It should launch pretty good. Yep, so four-wheel drive is definitely working there. Brakes seem to work well too. Yeah, overall, I think we're good on this thing. I might have to fix some tires still. This front left one's kind of got some sidewall cracking on it that I'm not sure if I'll get patched or not. So I might have to throw some tires on this thing. All right, yeah, so we're done with this one. I think it came out pretty decent for what it is. So I paid 250 bucks for it. Should be about a $2,000 four-wheeler pretty easy. Not a bad profit. Really spent probably, in total, probably about 3/4 of a day of time working on this one here and there. Alrighty, well, follow along for the next one.